What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Hope your day's going pretty good. I know mine's not doing too bad considering the state of the world right now. You know, we've had a lot of blowback here recently in the past few days of some of these pro-Palestine groups coming out and actually holding rallies cheering on Hamas. It's like, what are you guys doing? These people are terrorists. We have a lot of people in the news. I don't know if it's trying to calm tensions by trying to label Hamas as just militants or gunmen or stuff like that instead of calling them what they are, being terrorists. That to me is kind of dangerous in a way because it's helping spur on some of this pro-Hamas sentiment that we have right now in this country. And there's a lot of backlash from that. There's people all over Twitter getting railed against. You know, it has brought a lot of people together. I ain't gonna lie. It's silly and it's crazy. It blows your mind to think that war can bring people together, but that is partly what war does in a certain sense, you know, can bring people together on issues. But overall, it's a net negative because you have people dying at the end of a gun barrel, you know, somewhere else in the world. How can we stand for that? In other words, you know, there's a lot of people out there saying that Israel should just completely decimate Hamas, which if they could, I'm sure they would. And I'm having trouble not saying I agree with that. Yeah, I'm having trouble saying I do not like death. I don't like fighting. I don't like murder. I don't like war. Definitely don't like war. And I'm having a lot of trouble with it. But when you see some of this stuff coming out of Israel, man, what these Hamas terrorists did, it just sucks. It's a terrible situation. These people are clearly being oppressed, but like I've said before, it doesn't justify just randomly killing women, children, just regular civilians. I can't justify that, and it's hard for me to not be mad about some of the stuff that's going on over there. Is Israel's response to this justified? Man, you know, it's hard to say. It's really hard to say. I hate war with a passion, but it's really hard to say if they're justified or not. But like I said, for the backlash that's going on, there's a lot of it. I heard a story earlier today about a Harvard professor, or Harvard itself, is losing like $500 million of funding from one of their donors over pro-Hamas sentiments and comments and whatnot. That's a lot of money, man. I mean, it's Harvard, and it's like kind of makes you think, what are these professors doing over there? Because it's not just Harvard. Yeah, not just Harvard at all. Get this. Cornell University professor calls Hamas terror attack exhilarating and energizing. If you are disbelieving that there's pro-Hamas sentiments in the United States, if somehow you haven't seen all the videos of these rallies cheering on, you know, Palestine, which I know there's a big difference, so I'm going to try to stick to Hamas. But honestly, looking at some of the polls, Hamas has about 50% approval rating in Gaza right now. So, it's half of Palestinians support this crap. All of Hamas is all terrorists, with half of their population supporting this. Unless they're getting fed 100% propaganda, I have no sympathy for some of these people if they get caught in the crossfire. I hate to say that, man, because that's not generally my position, but if you're cheering on the death of innocent civilians, I really ain't got nothing for you, to be honest. But let's get into this story. A Cornell University professor was caught on camera telling students Hamas terror attack on Israel, which has left more than 1,400 dead, was exhilarating and energizing. The remarks were made by a pro-Palestinian protest by Russell Rickford, an associate professor of history at the top-tier school in Ithaca, New York, and posted online Sunday by a student who called them shameful. Good on you, dude, for catching this video and exposing this professor. I'm telling you, our institutions have been captured by the far left. It's just the evidence I've seen. Don't yell at me for it. I didn't do it. The footage of Rickford's impassioned speech was also shared with the post by two other tipsters. They declined to say exactly when and where the rally took place, but both said they were shocked by the brazen remarks. The professor said the coordinated October 7th attack in which militants, see, they're calling them militants, in which terrorists broke through concrete walls and paraglided into Israel to indiscriminately murder civilians, shifted the balance of politics, and punctured the illusion of invincibility of Israel, which has imposed a blockade on the Gaza Strip since terrorist group Hamas seized power there in 2007. Wow. That's what they've done. You don't have to be a Hamas supporter to recognize it, he said. Nuts, man. Just nuts. No, and you don't have to be an Israeli supporter to recognize that this crap should stop. That there should be no need for this. People, you want to get violent. You know, I understand that sometimes violence is a means to an end when it comes to political matters, when it comes to the persecution of a population. I understand that totally. Not saying it's a good thing, but I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Sometimes it's necessary. We've seen that in the past. Look at the civil rights movement back in the 60s. I find it hard to believe that some of these people had to go to that extent to get civil rights. It's shameful, to be honest. It's completely shameful. What in the hell were we thinking even further back than that? Talking about the 50s and earlier with segregation. Whites only shit. What? You know, it's hard to believe that these days, looking back. Like, how the hell could you do that to a population of Americans? Doesn't make any sense at all how they could do that to people. But that was clearly a normality. It was completely normal. People were like, yeah, whatever. They might not have liked it, but they sure lived with it. You know, and it took a lot of people doing a lot of things to change it. Hey, sometimes violence calls for change. But you know what? When you're murdering innocent women and children like that, that's not justified. That is never justified. And that's what they're doing. That's what they've been doing for years. For a long time. I would probably put a blockade on them too. You know, and once again, I can see what's going on over there. You know, I have eyes. But I can also see that when they try to help these people, they use that help to kill more Israelis. Like with the story of the Hamas group taking water pipes that were supposed to be for them to have running water. They took and built rockets out of them. It's, like I said, it's really hard for me to have sympathy with a group of people that would go to that extent to kill people. Like I said, I try to see it from their perspective, but I just can't get it. Can't get it at all. But let's keep going. Rickford then claimed many Palestinians who were born into violence and oppression were able to breathe for the first time in years in the hours after the brutal massacre. Shame on you, guy. Really? You're going to say they were able to breathe? I don't know anybody who could sit there and watch a group of people go and gun down, let's say a baseball field. We got a bunch of kids and a bunch of parents watching a baseball game. A group of terrorists comes in and guns people down. You're sitting over there behind the terrorists and you're finally like, oh, yes, thank you. That, my friends, is evil. and why I cannot understand the support for Hamas. I can understand sympathizing with Palestinians. They're in a really messed up situation that, frankly, from what I can see, is really hard to get out of. Egypt's cut them off, and they're obviously surrounded by Israel and then the Mediterranean Sea. So they're not in a really good position where they're at. But there's got to be a way they can get out if they want to. I also seen a story where Anthony Blinken is preparing an aid package for some of those Palestinians. And I'm not sure how I feel about that just yet. But if they do get it, I hope it goes to people that actually need it and not to the terrorists that are terrorizing, frankly, the world right now. It's just crazy. But let's continue, because Mr. Rickford is not done yet. It was exhilarating. It was energizing. And if they weren't exhilarated by this challenge to the monopoly of violence, the shifting of the violence of power, then they would not be human. I was exhilarated, Russell said, to a smattering of approval from students the video showed. Wow. The crowd then chanted, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free," a common rallying call for pro-Palestinian advocates to eradicate Israel and establish their own state. The phrase is deemed anti-Semitic by the American Jewish Committee. Oh yeah, it's just anti-Semitic. No, that's not completely genocidal whatsoever. From the river to the sea, they're talking about the Jordan River. So that means the entirety of Israel. They just want to eradicate everything in there. That is worse than what the Nazis did. Okay, I can go to anybody, far right, far left, in the center, and say, hey, was Hitler a bad part? I'm sorry. Except for Kanye West. He obviously thinks Hitler had some positive qualities, which, I mean, everybody does, but it's Hitler. But you can go to anybody, far left, far right, and say Hitler bad, and they'll say, fuck yeah. But this, Hitler didn't eradicate all the Jews. Maybe he didn't have a chance, and he wanted to. But I don't know. That just, there's nothing you can say to that. When somebody actually says that, it's like there's no reasoning with that person at all, whatsoever. How the hell can you reason with somebody that chants from the river to the sea, talking about eradicating an entire population? Now, I know what you might be thinking. Isn't that what Israel's trying to do to Gaza? No, they're not. They're trying to eliminate the terrorist threat. When you have Hamas paraglides in, lands to attack a military target, sees a rave going on, there's people dancing, okay, just having a good time, and they see that as a target of opportunity, and without any warning, just start firing on them and killing people. Like that video I seen with this person running up to a gated community, trying to go into their gated community, drive in. Militant terrorist comes around the corner with his gun, pop, pop, kills that person and runs in. When you have acts like that versus Israel dropping pamphlets over an area saying you have 2-3 hours to get out because we're about to decimate this entire area. And then they actually wait those 2 or 3 hours before dropping the bombs. There's a stark difference to that. Neither one of them are good. But one is way worse than others. Especially when there's unconfirmed reports of Hamas forcing people to stay in those buildings, knowing that they're going to get killed. That's even worse. That's like the evil movie villain person that has one of his cronies fail at something and then he just, boom, kills them. That's no better than that.
That's what they essentially are. Hamas essentially is an evil movie villain right out of a damn fiction novel or something. It's crazy, man. And people support this crap. The depravity, I swear, is just so thick you can shoot it with a gun. Oh. Sorry about that rant. Rickford did not respond to an interview request from the Post, and Cornell did not immediately respond to a request for comment. His explosive speech came after a diversity and inclusion director at Cornell was criticized for calling the Hamas attack a resistance. Fuck your fake outrage at Palestine when you've literally been silent about the violence perpetuated by Israel against Palestine every day. Duran Borders of the Cornell Johnson Graduate School of Management wrote on Instagram the day of the attack. Borders later condemned the violence, but said it was on par with Israeli state-sanctioned violence against the Palestinian people. Well, I just disputed that. I just logically broke that down and refuted that. I'm sorry, I didn't dispute it. I refuted what he just said. Cornell's Ivy League rival Harvard University made headlines last week when more than 30 students co-signed a letter circulated by Harvard Palestine solidarity groups that held Israel entirely responsible for the terror attack. Harvard's president defended students' right to free speech, but several of the groups tried to walk back the support of the missive after business titans threatened to blacklist them from Wall Street. Non-profit news watchdog group Accuracy in Media drove a billboard truck around the Cambridge, Mass. campus to dox the students who purportedly signed the letter, labeling them Harvard's leading anti-Semites. Yeah, I don't agree with the doxing of the students and calling them anti-Semites, which they are, but name-calling is ridiculous, in my opinion, even though these stupid, idiotic Oh. I'm sorry, I'm just being silly, y'all, but I just don't get that at all. And, we have other news. I read this other article that I was going to cover, but we're kind of running long. I kind of went on a fucking rant here about this crap because got to get it off my chest somehow, right? But I read this other article. I might do a second video. Wow. But they're blaming Joe Biden for this a lot, and their argument makes logical sense because it pretty much states that every other president since the Carter administration has essentially negotiated with Israel and Palestine to try to work out some kind of deal to keep tensions low, to keep stuff like this from happening. And the Biden administration has not done that. He hasn't even made a phone call over there, even though he's a large supporter of Israel. At least Donald Trump, we had the Abraham Accords. We had a lot of peace through Donald Trump. Donald Trump's foreign policy was top notch, man. A lot of people do not give him enough credit for that. Screw all the mean tweets and all the stupid statements he made. That's mostly the majority of criticism that Donald Trump has. Once you get past that kind of ridiculousness of Trump, you can see that he really was a very good president. He really did a damn good job with foreign policy too, but I digress. They're blaming a lot of this on Biden because he hasn't done anything for this specific situation, Israel and Palestine. Yeah, like I said, I was going to cover it. I might still cover it. Might make a shorter video. I'm not sure yet because this one's running kind of long. But they're essentially blaming it on Biden. Hasn't done a damn thing until this attack happened. Now he's going, I forget what day he's going, but he's going to visit Israel. Then he's supposed to meet with Egypt's president, I believe. Joe Biden has been an utter failure as a president. Nothing he has done anything good. He's failed the economy. He's failed foreign policy. His domestic policy has been terrible. He was called the Great Unifier. He was going to bring everybody together as soon as he eradicates all the MAGA Republicans. It's just ridiculous, man, this guy. I'm telling you, worst president of my lifetime, if not one of the worst presidents of all time. And he hasn't done anything. He hasn't done anything at all, and that's probably why he's one of the worst presidents. So he's failed to act time and time again, man. Failed to prevent Russia from invading Ukraine. He could have saved us a lot of stress, a lot of heartache, and $113 billion if he would have just saw it for what it was and tried to stop it somehow. I mean, he issued strong words, said, oh, well, Putin better not do this. And then what does Putin do? Invades Ukraine. Now we got a second evil guy. You know, it's like, what the hell is... I think it's just Joe Biden off-puts. He emanates weakness for some reason. He's too old for this position. You can tell. He's just too old. And please, America, we've got to get him out of there. If you don't want to vote for Trump, I understand. Vote for somebody else than Joe Biden. Please. I'm begging you. We've got to get this man out of office. And we've got to get the world back on track. I know it's not up to the United States to be the police of the entire world, which it seems like a lot of Democrats and a lot of Republicans seem to believe that that is our job, is to be the world police. I'm sorry, it's not. I can understand going in to help negotiate, you know, shit like what we're going through right now with Israel and Palestine. You know, send the president over there. Let's say, hey, let's work out some peace. That's what we need. Everything works better when there's peace, when there's no war. Which, that's another thing under Trump. There were no new wars under Trump. Maybe that's because he's a very savvy businessman and a damn good negotiator. Even though I really don't care for him all that much. He's a really good president, though. I can't deny that, man. It's just crazy how some people, but like I said, I digress again. Getting back to the topic at hand. Some of this anti-Israeli sentiments, the pro-Hamas stuff, it just needs to stop. You know, I said this yesterday and the day before. These pro-Palestinian people, these pro-Hamas people, man, it's just crazy. And I'm running out of words to say, so that's all I got for this one, y'all. Don't forget to hit that like button, you guys. It sure does help out. I do appreciate everybody. And if you're not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. We trying to grow, and we trying to do our thing over here. I'm trying to get these videos out as best as I can. So thank y'all for watching, and be positive. Peace.